We'll get started on the technical but not so technical side of things. So Van and Janelle, they thankfully brought us through, start talking early, start talking often, and then, make sure that you're staying informed and educate yourself. And but then how do we protect the home? And so that's sort of where I'm going to start. And it's not just about technology, right? So the home is the hub where we nurture our children into thriving adults, including how they steward their sexuality. The Bible instructs parents to teach their children diligently when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down and when you rise. And it's no accident that 3 of these 4 places where your children live, where they wake, and where they sleep are in the home. Now, my family moved last summer from one house to another here in town, and the previous house had a fence around it, which was great for keeping the dog in. Our new home, however, did not come with a fence, and with that tending to be a lower priority compared to the rest of our house, we had to rely on obedience training to keep the dog from running into traffic or getting in a fight with other dogs that walk by in front of it. And the training was not only for the dog, but it was for also everyone else in the family. The point is that while what I'm going to show you is about basic internet security, it can be a useful fence, but you cannot shortcut the learning process that everyone in the home must go through. And so on to the next slide here. I wanted to mention that as part of, when we're protecting the home, there's people out there that are fighting on your side there. Pornhub, if you haven't heard, they're in a class action lawsuit right now. And so they're in the process of being shut down, which is a great win. But there's other things that you can do inside your home as well. If you have the internet, you have to monitor it. Placing filters on your Wi-Fi, like on your router, that's a great place to start. You have to limit what can come into the home by blocking pornography and explicit sites, and then setting up safe searches as well. And there are a number of ways, number of products out there, filters that block on the market. And so there's 2 here that we recommend. They're free, and so you can get them set up on your router pretty easily. But you have to find out what works best for your family. So when we're talking about protecting our kids, we're also talking about the devices. Now and that's because you can't just keep them in the house, right? They'll walk out of the house. If they have devices, they'll take them with them. And remember, your job as parents is to help them become thriving adults. Now, I don't want to get too technical, but this is the OSI model. It's a framework to help us understand the different layers that are involved in communication. It's just a general model, so there's usually 7 layers: the physical layer, the data layer, network, transport, session, presentation, and application. That's a whole lot. I don't want to get into it too much, but you just have to understand, for our purposes, you can kind of take the bottom green ones here as kind of the physical hardware or devices, and then in the middle is the network or the internet layer, and then finally, more along the top side is where your security and your software and your applications are. And at each layer there, they can have their own security precautions, but you're going to have to decide what's going to work for your family, right? Now, in Janelle's apps quiz, when she's asking about these different applications, and you're probably surprised, the Bible app, how does that actually get how do you get porn on a Bible app? That just seems odd, right? Well, there's a Twitter a link for Twitter on there. If you go into the link for Twitter, well, there's an open search connection there for an unfiltered Google search. And that's how because it's inside the application, it's actually sourcing from Google itself, and it doesn't have any protection. So you kind of have to know what applications are out there. And kids they're very apt to figure these things out. And it might seem overwhelming, but trust me, you can do this. You can educate yourself. To help you with that understanding, there's many technical resources that are available for filtering. We found filters.pluckeye.net quite thorough. It's an interactive search. I can show you it at the back there. Access.org has also done a similar comparison. We have some of those printouts at the tech table there as well. And as Van mentioned, another really good one for looking at understanding the different apps that your kids might use is commonsensemedia.org. Their Parents' Ultimate Guide section is especially helpful. So we've covered a lot of ground so far, and I know your head must be spinning. Let's take a quick break. Think about the following items that are in your home. And how would you rate your knowledge about the parental controls, and how they work on each of your devices? Sort of a 1 to 10 scale. So what about your smartphones? Do you know how those work? Your computers, your smart TVs, the Xboxes, the routers, your tablets, your Chromebooks, and now we're getting, things like fridges with screens on them and things like that. Like, the Internet of Things just keeps getting bigger, right? But each of those should have some sort of protocol. In order to get into the Internet, there should be protections, and you've got to know about those. So as Van mentioned, he made sure that the kids, if they did have passwords, the parents knew about them. No one should have a private email or social media account. Now, I want to let you know that I saw a chart of brute force passwords. Like, if you just stuck in an algorithm and went through a list of passwords, anything shorter than 16 characters can be hacked in about less than a day. So the more complex the mix of characters, the better. So you should install screen accountability software and filtering on all your devices. Now, one of the reasons we like Covenant Eyes is one of our supporters, and we like supporting them, is because they do this quite well. Using good accountability and filtering software, when set up properly, can block nearly all inadvertent exposure to that material, to porn. Number 3, use Safe Search on all your web browsers. So there's another layer of protection. For every web browser installed, so if you have Internet, Chrome, Firefox, Opera, whatever it is, there's so many other ones out there. See if they have Safe Search features on there. Now, it's not foolproof, but it's, like I said, another layer of protection. And remember, parents, these safety features take time to set up properly. But your child's innocence is worth the time and cost. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's what we're here for. That's why there's so many people at all the tables here. We want to support you in this and help you through this. These device-level controls are critically important for creating internet-safe home and when they're out on their own. And make sure you're putting the technology to work for you, right? If it's the kind of technology that's as one guy mentioned, if you do a search for bunnies and it just blocks you from everything, it's not really helpful, right? Covenant Eyes, they do have a bit of an AI in their software, and so that can help reduce that inconvenience. And you want to make it useful, right? If you're always shutting it off, it's not useful. The right technology can help protect and monitor how your child uses their devices. But remember, filtering is not enough. That's why we spent the first half talking about your parent being parents and talking about with your children openly. In 2016, starting to show my age, 19 something. Barna research study, every family interviewed, 100%, reported that someone accessed porn when filtering only tech was being used. And then in 11% of those homes, someone accessed porn daily. And in 16%, someone in the family sought out porn at least weekly. Now, one of the guys that talked to me at the table, he said, have you tried each of these different solutions out there? And honestly, if I had unlimited resources, I might try that, but you have to do the research. You have to kind of look into each one. For Covenant Eyes users, they describe accountability as freedom. We grow, we find redemption, and are sanctified in community. So in our CARN meeting yesterday, we were reminded that the opposite of addiction is connection. James 5:16 tells us, therefore confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. Through gospel-centered accountability relationships, people discover proven techniques to understand and overcome their compulsive behavior and find freedom. Filtering alone in our culture doesn't work. Parents use it as with a mindset of set it and forget it, and we can't do that anymore. Parenting needs to be active, not passive. Barna's research showed that every home they had interviewed where only filtering was used, every home was accessing pornography, as mentioned. 37% of homes using Covenant Eyes, for example, some sort of accountability software, never tried to access pornography at all. So that's good. Filtering and blocking helps prevent mistakes, but it's always accompanied by accountability reporting. So that's with Covenant Eyes, for example, which not only shows your intent, but also curiosity, and that's not always a bad thing, and their interests. So parents should be having ongoing conversations about what their kids see and do online. Transparency builds trust, but it also goes both ways. So make sure you're open and honest with them as well. So when you're partnering up, when you have accountability, your allies will receive reports of your screen activity, which lessens your temptation or their temptation to look at porn. And then through meaningful conversations, those people that are your allies will be there to pick you up when you fall down and cheer you on when you succeed. Now, if you're choosing an accountability person, you got to have someone who understands, porn's a bad thing, and you want someone that's a good support for you. With the help of those allies, you can soar to new heights, both online and offline, and say goodbye to porn forever. Porn itself is one of the ultimate villains. It distorts our imagination based on a false fantasy. It isolates you. It ruins relationships, kills confidence. It actually supports human trafficking. It's addiction forming, as I mentioned, fuels shame and hopelessness. And it actually can also cause erectile dysfunction. But we can also help defeat it with conversations, with accountability software, with those real relationships based on mutual trust, because that connects you with others. It restores trust. It boosts confidence and peace. And it breaks the shame cycle. And it equips your ally to help you. I mentioned that this Covenant Eyes is a useful software. And honestly, I haven't put it on myself, but my sons are 7 and 9. They're right in that age group. And I think I'm going to do that this week. And you're all my allies. So